Hello, everyone. It's Emily. And before we get into our podcast, I wanted to remind all of our listeners that every month, Bernie and I host an Unreasonable Connection event where you can meet your co-working peers, talk, swap stories and advice, and get an extra charge of energy. Sign up on Luma or in the show notes, and let's get on with the podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Co-working Values Podcast. I'm Emily Breeder, and today we have Kyle Steele, the co-owner and managing partner of Credo Conduit in Orlando. Credo Conduit is an Orlando-based co-working space, art gallery, meeting venue. What else do you do over there at Credo Conduit?
Yeah, that's always an interesting question, because we don't necessarily just look at ourselves just as a workspace. Like I would say broadly, even on our website, we talk about ourselves in terms of a society. And the question is like for us is like where is our position in that society? And part of that is anchored in co-working, right? It's like providing a workspace for people to be able to come together from various disciplines and backgrounds, with the understanding that work and life gets better when people decide to come alongside of each other. The other thing we realize is like that as our place in the society is that it's just not just about that. It's about other things that are natural that we can convene just besides people. And so what else are those things besides co-working? It's the art gallery, which for us serves a role in terms of like how do we utilize our building, which is like an 18,000 square foot building sitting in Central Florida, and more or less around our thing is around like how do we from a an organization have an impact on our community positive. And so in one sense, like I said before, we provide co-working and workspaces, but in another sense, like the art gallery, it's about how do we convene up and coming local artists into a building that we have that's highly trafficked to be able to showcase the work of these individuals and help them to get better on their journey. And so we have that art gallery. Another place is obviously in meeting and workroom spaces where people aren't necessarily members, but they're coming in from the outside and they're, buying meeting rooms or renting meeting rooms and conference room spaces from us. And then there's other stuff like we have an advocacy program. It's like how do we come along nonprofits who are doing good work in terms of social environmental issues within our region. And their biggest challenge is like how do they get consistent space and dependable space to be able to convene their communities to continue doing this good work. And we see our building as an asset to be able to do that. And then last but not least, it's around, even local events. And so this weekend there was an event called like Asian Celebration, but it was really around that there's a large Asian community, a very vibrant Asian community within Central Florida or specifically Orlando. And so what we did was open our space up to allow them to convene their community here in like kind of like a festive way because of how our community is built. And so that's how we see ourselves as like the society that we're a part of, and our building is one of the hubs of that society. And how do we bring in different people, leveraging our building to make the society around us better and to create a society.
Right. I love the way that you use society in that. And also it's really interesting the way that your co-working space developed because it wasn't originally a co-working space and you've been around for a while, right?
Yeah, it was by accident. The story is that my one of my business partners had a group of coffee shops before he sold them a few years ago. And so this is back in 2013, maybe 2012, 2013. But a bunch of us were independent folks. Like we all either ran small businesses, were freelancers or something, but we just weren't part of a larger office. And so what we did was we would meet at the coffee shops. A few of us would meet at the coffee shops every Tuesday. We didn't have language for it at that point, so we just called it Co-working Tuesday, and it just started with like 3 or 4 people. But then over the months and over the years, it substantially grew, where it became more and more people. And so then for us, it was around all right, like now this is becoming work. It doesn't just feel like a cool initiative. I mean, it's still cool because people are enjoying it and it's growing, but it's definitely becoming work. And so the question is like, well, what is it, right? Like in order to sustain it. There in that conversation, we realized that it was actually what we were doing was a co-working space. So the question was, do we
Hmm.
want to continue doing that? And at the time, we had ran into our third partner who was looking at the building that we were currently in, and was going to place his family foundation here, and was trying to think about like what is it that he does, what would he do with this building? And we came to him with the concept. He really loved it. And so we joined teams and decided, okay, let's build a co-working space. We knew very early on that we could not compete with Regis or Industrious or WeWorks or any of those larger groups. And that was okay. It's like we just weren't in a position to compete with them from amenities, like features and amenities. And so we said, okay, so who are we? We need to be distinctly different. We don't need to go head to head with them. And so that's when we called back on our experience with co-working Tuesdays, which started, like I said, at the coffee shops, and says, what were we doing there? Because it was apparently special because it grew. And so we realized at that moment that it was a group of people who came together and believed that their working lives got better when they came alongside of each other. And we said, okay, let's carry that forward into our space. So what our value is that people who want that type of community will value our space, and that's where we're going to place the premium on. Yes, we do have to offer meeting rooms and conference rooms and internet and coffee and some of those basic services, but we don't have to compete head to head with the budgets and the capital of the larger players. We can just be authentically ourselves, have a social mindset, meaning that we desire to have an impact in our community, and we want to build that kind of society. And so we said, okay, let's do that. Now the interesting thing is, in order to do that, we had to be less transactional, and so we needed to be more relational because I cannot make your work better or your life better and vice versa if you don't know anything about me. And so because of that, we had to reimagine and rethink about like how do we do this, and as a result, we became very important for us to be able to say out loud with the place what we're trying to build and get people to buy into it, and then also to spend the time necessary to build the relationships with the people so that we can be helpful in delivering them to this promise of that their work and their lives will get better when they come alongside of each other. And not only delivering them, but delivering other folks to that and allowing them to participate in that. So our society is very relationship centric and less transactional. But yeah, that's kind of like the origin. It was all just like kind of a mistake that it was just like because of something that we were just doing because we just wanted to hang out with our friends, and it just turned into a business over the years.
Yeah. Now that ties into your personal mission. I was able to find this online. It said your personal mission is to help people find and fearlessly move into the power of their unique story. How did you
Hmm.
arrive at that, and how does Credo Conduit fit into that?
so so that's pretty cool that you found. I mean, maybe it's not that hard. Like I put it on everything, right? Because it is my identity. Like my identity is not tied to a specific title. It's tied to the work that I want to do in this life that I have and the time that I have, which I don't know how much time that I have, right? And so that's where it
Mm.
came from. It came from like years ago, saying to myself, what's the kind of work that's meaningful? Like what's my philosophy on life? And then during this time, like I didn't want to get to the last moment and feel as though like I wasted time on the wrong things. And so I didn't want to be selfish. I wanted to be outwardly focused. I wanted to be in a position of service. And so I started thinking about that. And part of that process was just kind of looking at my own personal story, the good stuff and the bad stuff, and then ultimately saying, and then all the gifts and the talents that I have, and all the things that I've encountered and done in my life, and saying, okay, well, what's the common denominator here? And that's how I ultimately arrived at that specific mission. Because what I found is that that's where I'm particularly useful. And so therefore, like that mission of helping people find and move into the power of their unique story it's something that I get extremely passionate about, and I can do that all the days, the rest of the days of my life. Now, how do I do that? I operationalize it through my family and through my work. But specifically in my work, it's the filter that tells me what work I do and what work I don't do. And then it allows me to then prioritize that work. So for me, the conduit, including some other stuff like are tools that I use in order to fulfill that personal mission. And so if the tool doesn't allow me to accomplish the mission, I don't do it. But then just like all things, tools tend to, like, as you build a house, for example, in the very early stages, you might need a bulldozer and some heavy equipment. But at some point, you got to put that equipment down and give it to somebody else so they can make use of it. And you got to pick up different tools because at that phase, it requires something different. That's all for me. That's how I look at that mission and all my work, and the conduit specifically for me. How it fits is like every day I get an opportunity to build a space and to maintain a space that helps people to um, that they feel like they belong and they feel like they're supported and they're valued. And I get to build a space that helps them move, not only understand what their story is, but to feel brave about it because they have the community and the people around them and the resources around them to support that personal story. And so that's how the conduit for me fits into that personal mission.
Sure. Yeah, you describe it as an interdisciplinary society, and part
Hmm.
of the mission of Credo Conduit, it says the luminous society woven with benevolent threads, and
Yeah.
that just sounds a lot deeper than just renting desks. So
Yes.
unpack that vision for us. What does that look like day to day?
Yeah. I mean, day to day is that we just our personal belief sets is that we never wanted to just build a business, which is okay if that's what you want to do. That's just like all tech or all this or all that. We recognize that diversity in thought and skill sets and experiences and backgrounds are the things that we believe make society good, right? And so when you have all of those different people who are all humans, right, bringing their gifts and talents and experiences and all that stuff to bear, like, just life looks better. And so for us, um, um, the diversity is a critical thing because we feel like life is fuller that way. And so that's for us, like, it's around, like, how do we, first of all, we need to say that out loud. We need to be intentional about how we convene people. And so one, we try not to go too heavy on one specific industry, for example. And so we try to make sure that we have, when you look at the fabric of our community, you have representations from all different parts of our community and what that looks like. And so we just did an analysis of our community, says, like, what's the makeup of our community, what makes it special, and we make sure that we have people here who represent those communities. And then the next piece is around how do we then like or I would even go, before I even go here, I would even say, like, people's those belief sets, those that diversity can just fall within people's personal belief sets. And so we're very open. We don't discard anything, whether your political orientation or your background or your religion or anything. Like, we just say, hey, at the center of it, what you have to respect is the thing that holds it together, is human dignity, that all human beings, regardless of their experiences and their opinions and their belief sets, no matter how inconvenient they may be to you, are worthy of dignity, or worthy of respect. And so as long as people who are part of this interdisciplinary, diverse community, like, respect the fact that humans are humans, and that they're all unique and special, regardless of if you hold a different political position than me or a different belief set than me, then you're good, right? We embrace that. And so that's how we go about it. One, we just talk about it that way. We position ourselves that way. We make sure we stay in those positions. And then from a day to day, we are constantly looking at like the makeup of our community and saying like, how do we improve this? How do we make it better? And because maybe it's getting too tilted. So for us, like our staff, we don't actually have offices. We actually sit on the floor, because that's important for us to be able to sit there so that we can hear what's going on, see what's going on, and get a pulse of our community and make sure that we're not sliding too far to right, to left. Um, and then we have a set of core values that are very important to us that help govern us to make sure that we don't get too sideways, and that we remember that we are about diversity, and people, thoughts, and industries and things like that. But then keeps us centered around the fact that they're humans, that we're here to serve, and we're here to try to give them the best experience ever. One small thing I'll notice that because of the way that we approach our community, what I find is that in the co-working industry, the averages are different, right? Like some people say 12
Hmm.
months, 15 months in terms of like how long people stay at a community or as a member of a community. What we
Yeah.
find is that individuals stay. Our data shows this individuals stay in at least 33 months plus. So we're exponentially doubling, almost even more, a little bit more than the average co-working stay, and that's specifically around the because of the when we look at the data and the feedback, it's because of like the way that we are treating people and the way that we're bringing people together. That people just feel much more grounded and supported here and seen here. And as a result, they stay here longer. And what we find is that when people leave, they actually grieve. They actually send us notes that there's grief written all over these notes, these emails.
Wow.
They don't just disappear. They let us know, right? Even if they're moving to, I don't know, South Africa or something, that was a recent example. They're like, hey, like this place is the best thing and I got to end my membership and I'm so sad. And for us, that used to catch me off guard at the very beginning, but it actually started to let me know that we were doing the right things in terms of like how we were
Yeah.
building the community and doing things in a way that really supported folks. And so that's how it shows up, like that kind of being committed to that kind of community, building that type of community, an interdisciplinary community, a diverse community. That's how it actually leads to us having members who stay longer and members who just who really um, feel impacted by the work that we're doing, and even our community feels impacted by the work we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that if it's a deep personal connection and a place where you can come, a real third place where you can, engage in your work and meet new people. I can definitely see grieving the loss of that community if you have to move away.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
in fact,
Yeah.
you wrote a piece recently on your blog about daring to be open, uncomfortable, and vulnerable, and you framed it as a strength and a goal for the Conduit's environment. So,
Yeah.
is that part of the piece? Why
Yes.
is vulnerability so central to the community you're building?
Oh, yes. Because okay, so these are just thoughts that myself and my partner share. Is that if I walk through life believing that I have all the answers, then I don't need anybody, right? And I don't
Right.
give room for other people to be able to express their own personal gifts and talents. That's critical for them to self-actualize, right? To be who they're going to be, to get the benefits of living a life with purpose and meaning, right? And so in order to admit that you don't know all the answers, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to admit that you have weaknesses and blind spots, and that's not a bad thing. We can own our gifts and our talents, right? Our strengths, but we can also own our weaknesses and own them in a way where we can actually benefit and give other people benefit by just being open and vulnerable about that. And so it gives so if I'm not good at something, to be able to say it gives me an opportunity. It relieves pressure that I don't have to be the best. It gives an opportunity for you to come alongside of me in a way that's helpful both in my life and my work, and it gives me an opportunity to be able to affirm your value and your worth not only to the world but to me. And so vulnerability and openness is critical, If you're going to build a community filled with people who believe, like I said, that their work and their lives get better when they come alongside of each other. Because why are they coming alongside of each other? Because they're vulnerable enough to say, like, look, I can't do this by myself. I have great things that I can add to a community that can help people. But the reality is, we all need each other in this journey called life. And so there's areas that I'm weak in that you can come alongside of me and help me, and vice versa. And we just feel like that kind of thought, that kind of engagement creates a different level of connection with people that causes them to want to be a part of what we're doing, and want to continue being a part of what we're doing.
Right. And the inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility goes right along that with the accepting others and being vulnerable and helping one another. And it mentions on your website that you're an invite only shared co-working
Yeah.
community. So in the context of valuing inclusion and accessibility, it might seem counterintuitive. Can you talk about the reasoning
Mhm.
behind that model?
Yeah, yeah. Like originally, like there was a lot of debate around, like, should we do that? Especially when you're first starting, right? When you're just like, look, I just need money. Like, I need money to, to keep these doors open, and I'll just take whatever money. But the realization that all money is not good, right? And that if we're going to deliver people to the value that we're trying to deliver them to, which is to be a part of this community that's filled with people who believe that their working lives get better when they come alongside of each other, we need before we have to protect the what we're trying to build here, right? It's not that we're trying to exclude people. We just need a landing spot to be able to say to people, what are we trying to build? We're trying to build this type of community. And then we need to be able to have a spot to be able to have the kind of conversations that allows this community to be successful. So if you come in to our community and all you do is just give us a credit card, then I know nothing about you except that you paid me and some a few little data points, right? Cannot be helpful in delivering you to the value, and vice versa, of what we're trying to do, the community that we're standing on, right? Or the culture that we're standing on, if that's all I know. So the only way that I can do that is by taking the time to sit down and talk to you. So the invite only is not a barrier, it's just a stopping point that allows us to do the work that's necessary for people to be able to make a decision about whether or not they want to be a part of this community. And yeah, whether or not they want to be a part of this community. So one, it starts with, like I said, with just what are we trying to build, be able to have the kind of conversations so that we can deliver people appropriately to the value, to give them opportunity to ask questions that are appropriate for them. And then last but not least, to be able to sit inside the community to actually experience it, because what they read on the website, what they heard from me, we want them to reconcile that with what they experience. And so there is no right or wrong answers. By the sheer fact that they decided to show up, they get in. That's the only requirement, that you just show up to the partner chat, as we call it. And because they showed up, then we honor that by giving them the invite. But that's the reason why we just kind of put that stopping point in. It's just kind of like it's to do all of that work, because we feel like it's critical in order to, like I said, deliver people to the value that we're trying to deliver them to, which from a business perspective, although it's a secondary thing, plays out in the fact that our members, our lifetime value of our members is exceptionally longer than most co-working spaces.
Right. I can't help but wonder what that looks like for your onboarding process. I know you want people to show up, but say you're a space out there that's just starting up, and they want to have a similar message, but the community's not quite there yet. At what point in the
Mhm.
cycle did you start making it invite only, and how do you handle it if someone's not the right fit?
Yeah, so we've been that way from the very beginning. The moment we opened our doors, it was that's what we said. Now, like, listen, like our economics are a little bit different. And so we had the capital and the relationships to float this concept while it built up, because it's a floor model, right? And so it just takes longer. But 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 the um but the what I was going to say about this. The But yeah, so when people first start, they for us it was like always a part of like how we did things. And then what happens is that our process is that people land in a website and they see what we talk about and they automatically opt out of the system, right? So
Mm.
they see what they see and they're like, this is not for me, and that's fine. Like we tell folks, like we're like there's different types of houses for a reason. All houses aren't designed for everybody. Like that's just the reality. So we don't need to be a one size fits all for everybody. We just feel like let's just be good at what we're good at for the people who want us, and for people who want something different, they can go somewhere else, and that's fine too. We can still be friends. And so what our process looks like is that when people come in, they read, they see, and they say, "Hey, I either don't want to be a part of this or I do." If they do want to be a part of it, they fill out our membership application, which is just a small form that just says who you are, how did you hear about us, tell us a little bit about who you are. It goes to our internal team, our community managers, who then take a look at it to get an understanding of who they are. And then we automatically send out what's called an invitation for a partner chat. So every partner in all of our partners, myself and my two other partners, we every member in here speaks to one of the partners. No one ever slides past us, right? And so they meet with us, and so immediately from the gate, it throws people off, right? They go and they like, wait, you're the owners and y'all are meeting with us. So so
Mhm.
they feel like special because they are special, right? They deserve our time, and so they fill out that form. Then immediately we schedule, regardless of what we see on that form, as long as it's something like not crazy. We send them a thing where they then schedule their chat. We sit down with each member, prospective member who comes in. We do the chat in the thing that I said, right? We tell them what we're trying to do. We get to know them and we get to know each other. We answer their questions. We then stop and say, hey, invite them to work for the day here so that they can experience the community. And then because they showed up, then our community managers automatically will then send them an invite, which then they accept. And it's an open invitation. They can choose to accept it now or at some period of time. We always say it's open. And so we send that out and then they respond to it. About 99% of the people who come in for the partner chat become members. The rest of the folks, most folks self-select out very early on. Now, like I said, there is some tension in the early days when you're trying to get revenue. Like, do you do this or not? But what we realize is like we have to like not do that because our value and why people are here is attached to that kind of community that you're convening. And we bring in
Mhm.
people who are just much more transactional, which is fine in nature and how they approach things. Then it erodes everything that we're trying to do here and actually moves us backwards. And so it was a decision that we had to make and this decision that we had to stick to, hoping that it will turn out for our best. Unfortunately, it has turned out for our best because we're still here 9 years later and have continued to grow dramatically over the years.
When it comes to that mission of transformation, community connection, social impact, how do you measure success beyond the obvious occupancy rates, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we do an annual survey. We do a lot of like feedback stuff around here, like in the bathrooms. It's like feedback where people can get feedback by hitting a QR code. There's QR codes on the desk that people can hit whether they're visitors or not. We send that out, and a lot of it is just measured around our ability to execute our values, and to like and then also to catch things that we're making mistakes and we're not doing necessarily correctly. So we're constantly soliciting feedback, whether it's small feedback or feedback through our annual surveys, to understand are we moving in the right direction and to understand and in a way that's aligned with the values and the mission of the organization. And so that's one way. We also do it because our community managers are tasked with going around and making sure that we talk to people constantly, right? It's part of their job is going around and staying in the face of our members, having conversations to get to know them, to understand how they can be helpful, but then also to assess like how we're doing. The other thing I talked about was just us all being on the floor, including the partners, right? When we're here, we're all on the floor, and so we assess our impact in that way, just visually And then there's other things like in terms of like the events that we are coming here, right? Like we want to see these community led events that are dealing with regional people who are trying to solve regional issues that were or citywide issues like homelessness or economic development, whatever. We want to see them be able to convening their groups in this place. And so we're looking at those kind of events. How many events are spurring up? And then the last pieces are advocates, right? Like our advocates are organizations that we give a free membership to for 1 year under this advocacy program. And it's really, like I said, designed to just help them convene their communities to continue doing the good work in the community that they're trying to do. So think of like how nonprofits are always struggling for space, period, right? And so they're out
Hmm.
there trying to solve or address like homelessness, hunger, economic development, all these social environmental issues. And so we want to be able to give them a space. And so we look at like part of the measurement is how many advocates do we have currently within our rally ecosystem, I mean, not rally ecosystem, our conduit ecosystem that are present here. And so we're looking at that number on a month to month basis.
So before we go here, one more question. If for the other co-working space owners and managers who are listening, who hopefully are very inspired as I am by your focus and your on deep community and your values, what kind of practical advice would you offer for intentionally cultivating a more inclusive, supportive, civically engaged environment?
Hmm. First, I think that part of it is around spending the time and understanding who you want to be. Like, so there could be a group of people on this phone who's like, look, listening to this, I just want to make money. Okay, that's fine. For those who aren't just about that, right? Just about making money, then it's a matter of, and who want to live a life that is, and build a business that's purpose driven. The question becomes, who do you want to be in the community that your business sets up with, or sets, or exists in, or sits in, and the people around it. And so like how do you as a business serve not only the community but the people outside and inside? And so I think that's the first question that one has to ask themselves. And then once they come to that answer, then it's a matter of how do you orchestrate and cultivate the community to allow you to get there, right? And so
Hmm.
so to me, like that's part of the first understanding. It's just like saying like who are you trying to be, developing your philosophy, and then trying to execute that philosophy within every touch point within your organization, like operationally, internally and externally. So that's the advice I would give. But like I said, if you're a group that's just trying to it's all about making money, then that's okay, right? It's just like this is something just different. So I'm just speaking to the people who just don't want
Sure.
just a business that just makes them money, but does good, right, in their community and their neighborhood and the world. And then from there, it's just like I said, the primary thing is understanding what is it that you want to be, and what are you good at, and then doing that and operationalizing that.
Kyle, where can we find you online?
Oh, I mean, LinkedIn, I'm there. Obviously, I have my personal web page, which is a little bit more expansive about who I am and other things I do. I mean, dives into my own personal history and gives a nice, you know, informs like why I do the work I do, and then it's centered around like my own personal mission. So like, I have my personal website, which is kylesteele.com, and then obviously, oh well, yeah, I don't really show up that much on our own company website, the co-working website. But I mean, those are pretty much the areas where I can be found, is on Instagram or LinkedIn, my personal website, and even to some point Instagram, although I'm just kind of like more of a lurker on Instagram than a content producer. So, but yeah, so I like being a lurker.
So, for everyone that's listening, I originally met Kyle on our Unreasonable Connection event that Bernie and I run every single month. You're welcome to join us there. The link will be in the description. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us. I hope we can do this again sometime. And best of
Yeah,
luck
it
to
was
you
fun.
and Burrito Conduit in Orlando.
Thank you very much. Thank you.